Good evening, Patreon community. This is Dr. Glenn Doyle, and tonight we're going to do some evening meditation. So, we started out the day, and I kind of gave you a how to tutorial on kind of how I do meditation and self hypnosis. And I went into a little bit of the theory about why meditation works and what meditation and self hypnosis were really all about. My goal with this material that I'm putting on Patreon is always to over deliver on your expectations and over deliver on what I feel that I can deliver. And something that I feel I can deliver with these videos, at least, is providing you lots of examples and lots of modeling about how I create a life of high achievement and high satisfaction. We were talking about that this morning a little bit. So this evening is going to be a little less of a how-to tutorial, and it's going to be more of an opportunity for you to practice along with me. I want to show you kind of how I do these things on a very practical level. I want to take you down to a deeper level because I know that there are lots of resources on the internet that you can always turn to learn how to do stuff. In fact, I have plenty of videos and plenty of articles up on how to do stuff. But something else that I can offer you guys is the opportunity to see really how I do this in a practical context and for you to practice along with me. So this is kind of how I do my evening meditation. And again, this is an invitation that I'm extending to you in just a very practical sense to practice along with me. I'm not going to get into a lot of deep how-to stuff since I did a long video about that this morning. I will just emphasize a few points. The difference between my morning meditation and my evening meditation. So the morning meditation is, at least for me, very focused on goals. The reason for that is because when you get up in the morning, the very first thing you're doing is just kind of setting that tone, right? You want to establish the groove that your brain is going to be in for the rest of the day. So that's one of the reasons why I really focus on goals first thing in the morning. In the evening, I tend to focus more on gratitude. And I know that there are lots of teachers out there who teach a lot of things about gratitude. You should be grateful for everything that happens to you. If you follow my work, you know that I don't believe that. I think that some things just suck. You don't have any obligation to be grateful for everything that happens to you. I do, however, think that when we get into the habit of appreciating certain things that happen to us. And they don't have to be profound things. They can, we've all had things happen to us in the course of the day that have been helpful, that have been pleasant. I am a firm believer that what we focus on does expand. I don't necessarily take that to a metaphysical level. I'm not one of these law of attraction guys that says, you can create the life of your dreams simply by visualizing it and focusing on it. I do think that just from a neuropsychological perspective, that thoughts that are practiced become easier to think. So if you get it in your head that, look, good things can happen to me and good things do happen to me, it becomes easier to look for and find the good things that will happen to you. Okay, and again, I'm not trying to get spiritual on anybody. What we're talking about is exercising that gratitude muscle so that it becomes easier to flex. So that's really the focus when I do my evening meditation. So if you remember in the morning meditation, I would visualize as I was breathing in kind of the molecules of the world expanding to accommodate my goals and my vision, right? And then when I would breathe out, I would visualize kind of reality settling into my goals and my vision. that becoming the new normal. In the evening time, I try to do it a little bit differently. So when I breathe in, I imagine my heart kind of opening and expanding, okay, and becoming more receptive to these good things, these good moments that happen during my day. And then as I breathe out, what I imagine is those good things, those good moments, those moments of pleasure, those moments of fun, those moments where things went well. I imagine those things kind of settling into my heart, settling into my cells, settling into my being. Okay? So breathe in, we become more receptive, we become more open. Breathe out, those good things that happen during the day settle within. And we can just kind of enjoy it for a moment. Okay? Now, another difference between the morning and the evening meditation. The morning meditation, we used, the tool that we used was a metronome, right, to kind of regulate the breathing in, the breathing out. I'm going to show you a slightly different way to do it, just because, again, like, I'm a huge believer in there's no one right way to do it, that we should all experiment with different ways of doing things so that we don't get locked into doing it one particular way. Another way to do it, if you don't want to do the metronome, if that doesn't feel right for you, is to use the tool. So meditation is a skill, and we also use tools. The skill is something that's generated from within you. The tool is something that comes from outside of you. A tool that I sometimes use with my meditation, especially in the evening for whatever reason, is music. The music that puts you into a meditative place is going to be somewhat unique. You don't have to use kind of this new age meditation music if you don't want to. Some of that stuff I like, some of that stuff is pretty, especially when I'm doing hypnosis in the office. Sometimes I'll use some of that stuff. I find, though, that different types of music can induce different types of meditative states. The piece of music that I'm going to use for my meditation tonight is a piece of music that has personal connection to me. I'm going to tell you just a quick story. You guys are probably saying, "Look, can we get to the meditation, please? You promised this wasn't going to be a how-to. Get to the meditation." I can tell you just a quick story. When I was an extern, so when I was doing my graduate training in clinical psychology, they make you do various training sequences. And at the very end, when you've completed all of your coursework, then they have you do an entire year of internship training. But before that, while you're still doing your coursework, they also have you do training sequences, and these are called externships, right? One of my externships was at a trauma treatment program, where eventually I went on to work as a psychologist several years later. But this is at a trauma treatment program in Washington, D.C., and it was really where I first learned to do group psychotherapy. And if you've ever done group psychotherapy, you know that one of the things that makes group psychotherapy tick is creating a space that feels safe. Creating a space that feels comfortable for everybody. And as I was training in this program, and I was training to do group psychotherapy and kind of training to learn how to create this safe space, I started to get really interested. Okay, what are the tools that can really create this safe space? And I began experimenting with that in my visualizations. I would visualize myself in a group. And I would ask myself, all right, so, what are things that I can include in this visualization that speak to me of safety? And one of the things that occurred to me was there's a piece of music in one of my very favorite movies of all time. It's a movie called Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off. If you remember in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, there is a sequence where they go to the museum, right? And it's this odd kind of beautiful sequence in the middle of kind of this weird comedy. there's this kind of reflective scene in the movie where they go to the museum, right? And there's a song that plays during that sequence that has always spoken to me of feeling good and feeling comfortable and feeling safe, right? I've got an instrumental version that I'm going to use for my meditation this evening. So I'm not going to be using the metronome. I am going to be playing that music. I'm not going to be counting my breaths as carefully as I was this morning. And you don't have to count your breath super, super carefully. What is important is that you remember that the sequence is you breathe in until a point where you're comfortable. You'll hold the breath for a period of time that is comfortable. You breathe out, and then you give everything a little bit of a rest before you breathe in. That's actually a really important part of it. There are people who are unfamiliar with this technique, and they'll breathe out and they try to breathe right back in without kind of giving it a rest. They wind up hyperventilating, right? So you want to make sure that you give it kind of a rest before you breathe back in. Okay. Now the other advantage of using a song or using a piece of music is you don't necessarily have to set the timer. You remember this morning we were using the Chime Squirrel app. If you queue up a song, you know how long the song is, right? So you know like how long you're going to be meditating. Tonight the version of the song that we're using is going to be about 3 minutes, a little over 3 minutes. And I feel that's just kind of a sufficient period of time for us, at least right now, as we're kind of in the beginning stages here. If this is the first time you're meditating with me in the evening time, I feel that's a good place to start. So I'm going to start the music. I'm going to be breathing in my the sequence that I'm going to be using. I invite you to meditate with me. You can either kind of keep my rhythm. You can come up with a rhythm that works for you. Okay. You can use my visualizations of kind of opening and becoming receptive and then settling in with all of the good moments from the day so that we can condition our nervous systems neuropsychologically to make feeling that way easier. So here we go. I'm going to cue it up. That's how we do that. Pretty easy, right? The idea is to get into a groove. The idea is to get into a routine of doing this again and again and again. That's how we change our brains. That's how we change our nervous systems. Imagine what it would be like to get into a groove where every morning and every evening began and ended with getting into this contemplative place. Imagine what that would be like for your nervous system. Imagine what that would be like for your focus. Now imagine what that would be like for your neuropsychology to begin each day with 5 minutes of meditatively conditioning your brain to move toward your goals. And imagine what it would be like if you ended each day by conditioning your brain to appreciate even the little things that happen that day. Just imagine what that might be like. Imagine what it would be like if you devoted 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. And I know we just did about 3 minutes of meditation there. And I'm kind of fudging because I've been meditating off and on throughout the day, right? So I've built up a store. So I'm fudging it a little bit right now. But imagine what it would be like to devote over an hour a week to doing nothing but kind of sitting and contemplating and breathing. Could really make a profound change in your brain, could really make a profound change in your body, probably make a profound change in your life. We're going to be talking a lot more about how to use naturally altered states of consciousness to really revolutionize how you live. But this is a good jumping off point. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. Thank you for joining me tonight. My evening meditation. I want you to go forth and be nice to yourselves. Ciao.